by our good buddy Ian Kress. And Ian, we've talked a lot of college football with you. You talked all the sanctions for Michigan and what happened with Michigan and Michigan State. Now let's talk a little hardball here as the Detroit Tigers are off the field today, played the Cleveland Guardians. Won yesterday, lost today, forcing a Game 3. Casey Mize, former Auburn pitcher, former #1 player overall, on the hill today for the Detroit Tigers. What do you make of his outing and just some of the ways that you've seen this Tiger baseball team, I should say, play throughout the course of the season and early in the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, Casey obviously only pitched 3 innings, gave up the 1 run in the first, but I think I expected him to go a little more than 3, but with AJ Hinch and the Tigers, the way they play ball, it's kind of do what it takes just to win 1 game and then figure it out tomorrow, whatever that means. They obviously had Tarek Skubal go yesterday, so they had a lot of fresh arms in the bullpen, and I think they just wanted to try to get it with all hands on deck through the bullpen and starting pitching. Throughout the season, Casey Mize has been pretty solid. I think one thing that's motivated him was last year he was left off the playoff roster for the Tigers heading into the ALDS against the Guardians, and he talked yesterday that that's something that motivated him. And he's had a very solid season. You know, obviously it's tough to live up to Tarek Skubal numbers, but, you know, I think 14-5 and an ERA in the 3s is pretty solid, and he's been a good number 2 for the Tigers. They've had a few injuries with their pitching, but he's stepped up and done a really nice job. And unfortunately, they weren't able to win today, but that obviously was done after the fact when he got taken out. So we'll see what tomorrow looks like for him, but this whole season has been kind of a roller coaster for the Tigers. They start off on fire, best team in baseball, leaders of the division, and then September was brutal for them. And the Guardians obviously caught them, won the division, and now they could lose to the Guardians in the postseason, which would be just brutal for the Tigers to not only lose the division but also lose your season to the Guardians.
Ian, you and I have one thing in common. Well, I'm sure we have many things in common, but one thing in particular is both of our teams just fell off down the stretch. I'm a huge Mets fan, and I don't want to say, because this would be mean, I don't want to say I was secretly rooting for the Tigers to miss the playoffs, because that would have masked the Mets collapse a little bit, but I kind of was. But I mean, hey, at the same time, I'm glad the Tigers made the playoffs because we get to watch Tarek Skubal pitch. But I mean, looking ahead to Game 3 now, you're on the road in Cleveland. I believe the first pitch times don't change at all, right? So it'll be 1:08 tomorrow.
1 o'clock.
Yeah. You've got Jack Flaherty on the mound, who, if Tigers fans remember, you traded him to the Dodgers. He wins a World Series, and then he comes back. What has this season been like for Jack? Because, I mean, I was looking at some of his numbers, and they were kind of appalling in comparison to that, like, bounce-back year he had last year.
Yeah, he hasn't been great. I think he was brought in to be the number 2 guy for them. He obviously had the experience last year of winning the World Series with the Dodgers, but he hasn't totally lived up to the expectations I think people thought. He was really good last year with the Tigers before they traded him away, and he just hasn't been that number 2 for them. Obviously, Casey Mize has kind of taken that over, but the hope was to have Jack Flaherty be that, and he's just been very up and down, and a lot of times he's been down, and you just never know what you're going to get. Like, he could go out there and pitch 6 really good innings tomorrow, give up 1 run, or he could be done before the 3rd inning and have given up 6 runs. You know, you just never know what you're getting, which I'm sure is terrifying for a manager and for a team, but for fans, that's also probably pretty terrifying going into Game 3 tomorrow, because now you don't have Skubal, obviously, you don't have Mize, and Flaherty's your next best guy, which is sometimes not the best thing to have. But we'll see how that goes tomorrow on the road.
For Mize in his development, what have you seen from him? Obviously, he was the #1 overall player, and that comes with its own set of pressures. But I got a chance to see him in high school when he was playing at Springville High School, and then he played at Auburn, had obviously a great career in college. As he continues to mature, because he's still a relatively young guy, what are some of the ways you've seen him develop year to year, and how big can these postseason runs continue to help him out as he moves forward?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, there's a lot of pressure being the first overall pick. And I think if that wasn't the label for him, people would obviously be very excited throughout his whole career. But,
Mm-hmm.
when he came up in 2020, he kind of had his struggles. He had Tommy John surgery also in 2021, I believe, or 22. I can't remember the year, but he missed a lot of time due to injury. Last year, he was making his way back. It was a lot of ups, a lot of downs. And so this was sort of like that first year where I think he truly had a chance to just really go at it. It wasn't like new to him. He had been there, done that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was almost the first chance for Casey to really show what he could do from start to finish in a season. And, I think he's getting more confident. You see that just in the way he pitches. This past weekend, Tigers were obviously playing for a playoff spot in Boston Friday night. They end up losing, but I mean, Casey almost pitched 7 strong innings that gave the Tigers a very good chance to win up until the bullpen let it slip away. But he's been very good down the stretch. I think he even, he pitched well today, just only went 3 innings. But for the most part, he's been very solid, someone you can always rely on to go typically 6 innings, give up, around 2-3 runs. Maybe every now and then he'll give up a few more. But for the most part, you know what you're going to get out of him, and may not strike out a whole bunch of guys, may not be the ace of the team like they drafted him to be. But right now, when you have the best pitcher in baseball on your roster, you don't need to be if you're Casey Mize.
Absolutely. We got a chance to hear from Tarek Skubal on his good buddy, Casey Mize.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see him go. I've got the pleasure of being teammates with him since 2018. Came up together through the minor leagues, rehab together when we both got hurt in the big leagues. I've seen all the work that he's put in, and I couldn't be more excited for him to go out there and pitch and just go out there and compete. This is a guy that was left off our roster last year in the postseason. So to just kind of see all the work that he's put in this offseason and how he's came back and obviously how he's looked lately. His last, I don't know how many starts, but they've looked really, really good. His outing in Boston, that's as good as I've ever seen him in my life. So it's awesome for him. I'm very excited for him, and he's our guy tomorrow.
So before we move on to Game 3, I got to get your opinion on one thing, on just what you think is in store here for Game 3. Obviously, that sound was before Game 2 started, but now that Game 2 is in the books and now it's a winner-take-all Game 3, what are your overall projections for this Tiger team?
I don't know if I'm so confident in them that I think they're going to win tomorrow. You never know, but
Yeah.
just the way they've been playing the last month, I don't know if they have it in them to win, unfortunately. Obviously, they could. It's baseball. You never know what could happen. They had a lot of great opportunities today to score runs, but they leave 15 runners on base. That's never a recipe for success. So if that continues, then I feel like their season will end tomorrow. But if they're able to get some timely hits, which there hasn't been many of them the last month or so, then maybe they have a shot. But I think that'll be the biggest key, is just if they can get the timely hits and score maybe more than 4 runs.
Absolutely. Ian Kress, thank you so much for your time here, shedding some light on a former SEC star there in Detroit, looking to see if they can continue on in the postseason.
Thanks, guys.